Today we're talking back training, back development, and if you're watching this video, you're clearly pretty into this whole bodybuilding thing because wanting to build a bigger back, it's a very niche desire. Most guys are just interested in building a bigger chest, bigger arms, carving out the abs, but you're clearly really into this, and so I'm going to do my absolute best to repay you, giving you the most valuable information I possibly can based on my experience, because when I first got into training, I was pretty lucky that my chest, my shoulders, they all developed relatively quickly. I'm 21 in this photo. I had been training for still about 5 years, to be honest, but I'm 30 now. The thing I really struggled with though was my back, and that's because I did not know how to train my back properly. I've since gone and figured that out, and these are the 3 exercises which have helped me the most. The first exercise which has really helped me develop my back the most is particularly for the lats. So I have actually a relatively narrow clavicle or shoulder width. So it's really important for me, especially as a men's physique athlete where it's all about the V-taper, to develop these lats as much as I possibly can. And the exercise which has helped me the most for that is sagittal plane pull downs. So what the heck does that mean? Typically my back work would consist of lat pull down, like you see here, and pull-ups. Usually not on the same day, right? I at least understood that this was pretty much the same exercise, lat pull downs and pull-ups. You can see here, this is before I sort of really figured out my lat training. See here down in the peak contraction, look how activated my rear delts are. Look how activated my teres major is there. You can't see my lat because it's covered by the singlet, but I can sort of just tell from watching this video that I don't really have a very deep mind-muscle connection with my lat here. And look, mind-muscle connection does not always equal muscle growth, but if you're not feeling a muscle, if it's not sore at all the next day, and if other muscles are sore instead of it, like that's a pretty good sign you have not effectively targeted that muscle. So the thing which worked really well for me was these sagittal plane pull downs. So sagittal plane means your arm is in front of your body. Frontal plane means your arm is in line with your body. So pull-ups and regular lat pull-downs, these are in the frontal plane, and these single arm D-handle lat pull-downs that I like to do, these are in the sagittal plane. This is what really helped me develop my lats the most. And now that I've spent years and years and years really doing this exercise, when I go back to pull-ups and lat pull-downs, both of which are in my program at the moment, I have a much better mind-muscle connection. I can really keep the tension in the lats, so to speak, that much more. So that's the first exercise which has been really instrumental in my back growth over the past couple of years. Now, if you don't have access to this particular machine here, which you may not, this is an Anytime Fitness, so it's not an especially vogue piece of equipment, but if you don't, then you can just do chin-ups. This was actually the exercise which sort of helped me understand lat training better. This was in lockdown when all we had was a chin-up bar, and you can see with how it went in the door frame, I just could not do pull-ups, so I had to do chin-ups. And the perfectly neutral grip, bang on shoulder width apart or ever so slightly wider than shoulder width apart, that just happened to be by chance absolutely perfect for me. This is probably like a $15 to $20 adjustable home chin-up bar, and this was the thing which just helped me find my lats, so to speak. Now you can see a lot of the upper back really active here. That's because it's the final rep of a set of probably like 15 to 20 because I couldn't add weight here. But you can really see, look how deep that lat connects now. Look at just how active that lat is. So chin-ups, especially with a neutral grip shoulder width apart, are very, very good for the lats. You can also put a couple of D handles on a regular lat pull down like this. It's not quite as good, if I'm being honest with you. It does not feel quite as stable to me. And I'm 5'9". If you were 6 foot plus, you're going to find that the weight is going to hit the stack sort of too quickly, probably. Maybe not. But that is an alternative for you, or you can do a cable lat row. So here you've got the shoulder press bench with a 90-degree bench, and you're really pressing against it and rowing that down. You're thinking about dragging your elbows along the floor for the lats. I personally do not believe that there is much of a difference between doing a row like this for the lats and a pull down like this, I think as long as you're driving that elbow down, dragging your elbow along the floor, either way you're doing a sagittal plane movement for the lats. I think it's going to be pretty much the same stimulus. It might just slightly bias upper versus lower lat, which is honestly, not many people really need to be worrying about that until you're at a very, very high level. Or you can do the no cheat lat row is what I call this. So this is a typical cable row station. Normally someone would sit here and do their rows like this, but you're going to come in behind the seat and use it to keep you really planted. That's why I call it no cheat, because you can't use any momentum and you're really fixed there, a very stable movement. I love this one. I credit a lot of my lat growth to this exercise in particular. So the next exercise we are going to talk about is for this region here, the erectors, the lower back, a really underrated region and one which probably does not get enough love, especially from me in the past. A lot of people will tell you you just need to do deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts. I think if you do conventional deadlifts, what I'm about to say is probably not relevant to you. Like if you're a strong deadlifter, you probably have pretty strong lower back already. I've never been a good deadlifter. I will do RDLs every week, but that alone was not enough for me to develop this region to the level of muscularity that I wanted. And so the exercise which worked really well for me is just a typical barbell row. This is how my coach told me how to do it, so I call these cheat rows. So you see how I kind of deadlift the bar up a little bit before rowing it? Deadlift, then row. Deadlift, then row. I do this, I've been doing this for about 6 months. It's not my favorite way to do them. I much prefer them, I call these like Dr. Mike style, as in Mike Israetel. It's very, very strict. You just touch the ground and then back up again. This is my preferred way to do them rather than deadlifting the bar up first. Now, barbell rows have been a mainstay for a lot of people's training for a long, long time. Here's how I used to do them, and I just never really got them when I used to do them like this. But I would deadlift the bar up, come down, and then do my rows. And it doesn't look very different whatsoever from here through to here. But there's just something about getting the bar to the floor. Maybe it's simply because it standardizes the range of motion, or it means I have to use maybe a little bit less weight. Like this is only 70 kilos here, which is less than the 80 kilos I was using at some point in the past. But when I used to do my barbell rows like this, it wasn't a big thing for me. Once I started doing them sort of Dr. Mike Israetel style, it's really been a game changer. I really love these. Even now when I'm in prep, I'm dieting, I'm going to keep them in as much as I possibly can. And the final exercise is for this whole region here, the rear delt, the mid, lower trap, a little bit of the upper trap too, to be honest. But for me in men's physique, I don't want my traps to get too high, because it takes away from the V-taper. So I want big wide lats with a thick back, but not too high in the trap department. And so the main exercise which has helped me develop that area of my back, because barbell rows often won't, they're a great lower back exercise because your lower back is often the limiting factor. But that means by definition they are a poor upper back exercise, usually for a lot of people, me included, because you will never really take your upper back all the way to failure, because your lower back is going to be the thing that sort of gives out first. I hope that makes sense. So instead you use a chest supported row variation. Now, the way I used to train any kind of row, I always felt like back needed to be trained lighter, with like more of an emphasis on the squeeze, and I think I just didn't understand how to train back effectively. Whereas chest, I would always do sets of 5, sets of 6, and just focus hardcore on progressive overload as much as possible, with beautiful form of course. And lo and behold, my chest grew extremely quickly. But it took me literally, now that I think about it, over 10 years to start training my back with the same thought process that I had always trained chest or squats, for example. So you can see here, this is relatively heavy for me. So this is 3 plates and 3 3/4 plates, so to speak. Chest support, the chest stays on the chest support the entire time. I'm not really swinging through too much through the back. I'm really focusing on 2 things. Number 1 is getting it as short as possible. So really getting the squeeze on this and trying to hold that peak squeeze if I can. controlling the negative and also spending a good amount of time in that stretch. What we want is see how in the stretch, at no point do I lose tension on the muscle. See the stoppers here? The weight does not actually touch the stoppers. So that means there's still tension on my back even in the stretch. I have short arms, so if you've got access to this exact hammer strength machine, you might find you actually just can't do that, or you might have to use a yoga block or something on your chest. This has been really good for me. If I'm being honest, this is the one exercise which has been a mainstay in my programming for my back for the last 3 years. It's not the best machine because it is really hard in the squeeze where your back is the weakest. If we could find a machine where it is hardest in the stretch, that would be even better. As an alternative, you can always just do a dumbbell row. Again, you have the same problem that the tension is linear because the weight doesn't change, but your back is weak in the squeezed position. So you're going to get to the point where you could sort of do like a couple of half reps, but not like a full rep anymore. And that's what I often do with the dumbbell work. I will do as many full reps as I can. Then when I can no longer do a full rep, I will just go into shrugs from there to just milk out as much of the stimulus as I possibly can. If your gym has access to this Life Fitness row, this is the best row you can ever get your hands on. This must be a video demonstration or something from me because it's like half of my working weight, if that. But one thing you'll really notice is that it's hard there in the stretch, and then it drops off a little bit here in the squeeze. So that's the perfect strength curve. That's the perfect resistance profile of the exercise to match the strength curve of your muscles, because your back is strong in that stretched position and then weakest in the squeezed position there. So that's the video. That is how I have managed to develop essentially a pro-worthy back, given that I did achieve my pro card in natural bodybuilding. Hope that helps, and if you would like to inquire about my coaching program or get more information, that's the first link in the description. I'll see you tomorrow.